The installation described is not in accordance with the National Electrical Code, specifically Section 760.55a. This section explicitly states that fire alarm circuits shall not be installed in the same raceway, cable, box, or other enclosure with electric light, power, Class 1, non-power limited fire alarm, or medium power network powered broadband communication circuits. The primary reason for this requirement is to prevent the induction of high voltage or current onto the low voltage fire alarm cables. Such induction could potentially cause damage to the equipment connected to the fire alarm system or, more critically, create a significant safety hazard for personnel. The potential for induced voltage is present even when the fire alarm cables do not have any voltage on them under normal, non-alarm conditions. The NEC considers these cables to be fire alarm circuits regardless of their energized state. Therefore, the requirement for physical separation remains in effect. The code mandates a separate raceway for the fire alarm circuits to ensure the integrity and reliability of the fire alarm system. While Section 760.55d addresses power-limited fire alarm circuits, it does not supersede the requirements of 760.55 regarding the separation of fire alarm circuits from power circuits in raceways. The exception in 760.55d primarily concerns enclosures and not raceways. It is crucial to understand the concept of electromagnetic induction to fully appreciate the necessity of this separation. When alternating current flows through a conductor, it creates a magnetic field around that conductor. If another conductor, such as a fire alarm cable, is placed within this magnetic field, a voltage can be induced in that second conductor. The magnitude of the induced voltage depends on several factors, including the current flowing in the first conductor, the distance between the conductors, and the length of the parallel run. In the case of a 480-volt circuit carrying a significant amount of current, the induced voltage in a nearby fire alarm cable could be substantial enough to cause malfunctions in the fire alarm system or even pose a shock hazard. Consider a scenario where the induced voltage causes a false alarm signal. This could lead to unnecessary evacuations and disrupt operations. More seriously, the induced voltage could damage sensitive electronic components within the fire alarm control panel or initiating devices, rendering the system ineffective when it is needed most. Furthermore, the induced voltage could create a path to ground, potentially energizing metallic parts of the fire alarm system and creating a shock hazard for anyone who comes into contact with them. It is also important to consider the potential for fault conditions. If a fault occurs in the 480-volt circuit, such as a short circuit to ground, the resulting surge of current could induce a very high voltage in the nearby fire alarm cable. This could not only damage the fire alarm system, but also potentially ignite flammable materials in the vicinity. Therefore, maintaining physical separation between power circuits and fire alarm circuits is a fundamental safety principle in electrical installations. The NEC reflects this principle in its requirements for separation. To ensure compliance with the NEC and maintain the safety and reliability of the fire alarm system, it is imperative that the machine installer be informed that the proposed installation is not acceptable and must be corrected. The fire alarm cables must be routed through a separate raceway, physically isolated from the 480 volts power cables. This may involve installing a new raceway specifically for the fire alarm cables or utilizing an existing raceway that is dedicated to low voltage signaling circuits. When selecting a raceway for the fire alarm cables, it is important to choose one that is appropriate for the environment in which it will be installed. For example, if the raceway will be exposed to moisture or corrosive substances, it should be made of a corrosion-resistant material such as PVC or stainless steel. It is also important to ensure that the raceway is properly supported and secured to prevent it from being damaged or dislodged. In addition to separating the fire alarm cables from the power cables, it is also important to maintain proper separation from other types of electrical circuits that could potentially interfere with the fire alarm system. This includes circuits that carry radio frequency signals, such as those used for wireless communication or data transmission. These signals can induce noise into the fire alarm cables, which could cause false alarms or other malfunctions. To minimize the risk of interference, it is recommended to maintain a separation distance of at least 3 feet between fire alarm cables and circuits that carry radio frequency signals. In some cases, it may be necessary to use shielded cables or raceways to provide additional protection against interference. It is also important to ensure that all electrical work is performed by qualified and licensed electricians who are familiar with the requirements of the NEC and other applicable codes and standards. These professionals have the training and experience necessary to install electrical systems safely and correctly. Finally, it is essential to perform regular inspections and testing of the fire alarm system to ensure that it is functioning properly and that it is free from any defects or malfunctions. This includes testing all initiating devices such as smoke detectors and heat detectors, as well as the control panel and notification appliances. Regular maintenance and testing can help to identify potential problems before they become serious and can help to ensure that the fire alarm system will operate reliably in the event of a fire. In summary, the NEC prohibits the installation of fire alarm circuits in the same raceway as power circuits due to the risk of voltage induction and safety hazards. It is crucial to adhere to these requirements to ensure the integrity and reliability of the fire alarm system and to protect the safety of building occupants. The machine installer should be informed of the non-compliance, and the installation must be corrected by routing the fire alarm cables to a separate raceway. Proper separation from other types of electrical circuits and regular inspections and testing are also essential for maintaining the safety and reliability of the fire alarm system. Failure to comply with these requirements can have serious consequences, including damage to equipment, false alarms, and even fire-related injuries or fatalities. Therefore, it is imperative that all electrical work be performed in accordance with the NEC and other applicable codes and standards.